Let's see the different types of errors that we can find in Python. There are two types of errors that we can find in Python: syntax error and the logical errors. Logical errors are also called as exceptions. We already saw the syntax error. They generally occur when there is some typo in the code, or maybe you forgot to give a single quote or double quote or some syntactical error. You have to correct the code to get rid of the syntax errors. We cannot handle them automatically. Whereas the logical errors are the errors which happen because of some logical issues in the execution of the program, or it might be some user input value which was not at all expected. The logical errors occur only when there is no syntax error at all in the code, but there is some user entered or user provided values which was not expected and the error occurred. So let's see different types of the logical errors that you can find in the programs and how can we handle them. Let's take an example of a division. Let's say we want user to enter number 1, which is going to be our numerator, and we are expecting user to enter a integer number. So let's take an input from the user and enter numerator, and the number 2 as a denominator. That also we are expecting it to be an integer number. Enter denominator. Now let's perform the division. Division equal to number 1 divided by number 2, and we are going to print this division. So let's print an f string division of number 1 and number 2 is division. Now let's execute this program and see the output. Let's execute our program. Python ex3.py. Now it's asking us to enter a numerator. Let's say I enter 10 and see the error. It says value error. It was expecting an integer, although the input function is always considering everything as a string. The int function is always expecting a number to be provided which is in the form of a string, and hence although the input function worked properly, when input function gave that 10 as a characters ten to the int function, it failed to execute it or failed to understand it, and hence the error. So this is one of the exception, or we can say the logical error. Now let's execute this program again. Python ex3.py, and this time we are going to provide proper number. Let's say 10 and denominator, let's say 0. Now here when we perform any division with the 0, it's always undefined when we are solving it in the mathematics, but for Python it's a 0 division error, and hence the error that Python interpreter has given us right now, because our denominator is 0. So we were expecting both numerator and the denominator to be integers, as well as the denominator should not be 0. So this is a kind of a logical error which needs to be handled in our program, because we don't know what kind of data that user is going to provide us. So let's now see how can we handle this. In Python, to handle any form of an exception, we use try except block. So let's first create a try block. So try block starts with the try keyword and the colon. So this defines the header or the heading of the try block. Then all the code that we want to be tested for any form of logical error should be indented inside this try block. Hence, we are indenting the line number 2 and 3 inside a try block. Let's put our division also in the try block, and then we create an except block where we actually print a message or maybe give an exception. So let's say an error occurred. We can get the error which has occurred, basically the type of error that which has occurred using the sys module. So let's first import that, import sys, and we are going to use it in our except block. Print sys dot info, and it's going to actually provide a list of all the errors. So we know that the first error itself will be stored in zeroth blocks, and we just right now want that zeroth error. Hence, we are going to print it, and let's print a blank line. So here we can see that we have created a try block which has a header with the try keyword and the colon. Then we put all the code that we want to test for any kind of a logical error. Then after that we put an except block, and that block also ends with the colon, and everything that we want to be handled if we get any form of a logical error and whatever messages we want to print on those errors, we put those in except block, and hence we put all these three lines in an indented manner inside the except block. Now let's test our code. Let's execute our program. Python ex3.py. Now it's again asking us to enter a number. Here we can see that it gave us an error message which we have put inside the except block. As soon as it's received the numerator value as the word 10, which it was expecting as a number or a digit, and it has given us a value error. So that is what has printed, and the message that we have got later on is on this line where, since the number 1 was never defined because of this error, we got that error, we got this exception. So this is a new error exception which has got introduced because the variable value was not defined. So if we fix the top part, automatically the new error that we are seeing right now as a name error will get fixed. The same error that we have got in the exception using sys module, we can actually write an exception and display the error value only, or the name of the error only in our message, instead of printing that object structure itself. So let's see that. So here, instead of using just an except, we can say exception as e. So as is a keyword in Python which allows us to create an alias. We use it when we have really large class name or some imported file name and we want to use a short form of it. Like here for exception I'm using E. So here I can just remove this. Let's comment this line and put the error of type. Let's create this as an f string e dot underscore underscore class. So this is a form of the private data of the class exception, which gives us the class name in a string format. Hence I'm using it. Now let's execute our program. Python ex3.py. Let's again give 10 as a value and see what happens. So here now we can see that on the same line we can put that class name like this, and it gives us a information about what type of error it is. So we can either use sys module to display all the exceptions that are occurring, or we can use the class private class attribute itself.